All right, Chance, let's get right to it. He always gets asked what he missed when he was away. People want to know what Terry Francona missed about baseball last year when he wasn't around the game every day, probably for the first time in his life. And when reporters, fans, whoever it is, when they ask those questions, I think, and I think you would agree, I think they want Tito to give some poetic, romanticized answer like he was sitting in his chair in Tucson thinking about the smell of the grass at a big league ballpark. And he didn't say that. What he always says is that he missed the people. And I get that. But I think Tito also missed the music. How many times this season, especially recently, has he talked about the Reds clubhouse after a win and he said, the music's playing? And he smiles when he says that. So I think Tito missed the music. So, Chaz, I ask you, is the music going to last long enough to get this Reds team, Terry Francona's first Reds team, through the month of September?
They did something that didn't look possible, and that was get themselves back into the race without sweeping the Mets. Coming off kind of the devastation from Friday, and they didn't even sweep the Padres. The Mets have opened the door more than the Reds have knocked it down, but they're in a position to where the story of their season hasn't been written yet. And for the Reds, that's an exciting place to be. They're playing meaningful September baseball. If the starting pitching keeps this up, there's a clear lane to stay hot down the stretch. And now they got a very winnable series against a bad Sacramento team that can help the Reds continue to move forward.
Do you enjoy the music in a winning post-game Reds clubhouse?
So the music this year, I think they've had better playlists. I think they need to commit to a theme in terms of their post-game winning playlist.
The reason I ask is because I know that you can't stand in there without in your head analyzing those things. And I know you're thinking about the playlist and you're thinking, why this? And why not this? And so that's why I asked, because I knew you had a take on that.
Again, just commit to a theme. It's all over the place.
I love it. Well, the music's been playing long enough, as you said, for them to win back-to-back series against the teams that they're currently chasing in the Mets and the Padres. And after they lost the first game against the Mets and lost the first game against San Diego, we all kicked a little dirt on them. Everybody did, but they're not dead yet, your Cincinnati Reds. Welcome into Power Stacks, proud members of the Growler Podcast Network. Coming up on the show, stop me if you've heard this before. You just said it. The Reds can pitch, and the rotation reclaimed its identity last time through. We've got Hunter Greene on one of the difference makers in his dominant start against the Mets. Also, the kids are all right. Guess who was on the mound late in games in pressure-packed Petco Park in San Diego? Connor Phillips on trust and on meeting those moments and rest and reinforcements for the Reds bullpen. And the thought of maybe seeing Chase Burns come out of said bullpen late in a game. We've got his take on that on the way. But first, you said it. You know, the Mets have opened the door. The Reds haven't knocked it down. The Mets have opened the door. They've done that again. This is the second time this has happened. They open it for the Reds and Giants, losing 5 in a row, 6 of 7. And for all the money and all the star power in New York, Chaz, would you agree they feel unstable at this point and that opportunity for those other teams, including the Reds, has presented itself?
I was reading about the Mets this morning, and there's been a lot of conversation about their starting pitching and how they need
Yeah.
to go deeper into games. What they actually did last night was they pulled Clay Holmes after 76 pitches and said, "You know what? We're done with this. We're just giving the bullpen a chance." And then the bullpen blew it. So a team that strategy is that much in flux and is still that much searching for answers. In
Mm-hmm.
September is the way you explain a fall like the Mets have had recently. And now they're counting on 3 kids. Some of their
Right.
acquisitions in the bullpen haven't been what they expected. It's a Mets team that's a great word that is unstable.
So think about this. After they've won more as we record this on Thursday, they have one more against the Phillies, who just bludgeoned them. And then they get the Rangers and the Padres for the next 6 games. So if they're going to snap out of it, there's not going to be an easy way out for the Mets. Meanwhile, Let's talk about the Reds now, because outside of the 2 wins in San Diego, gaining ground in the wild card chase, what else do you think the Reds gained in San Diego in that series, specifically with how they won the game on Wednesday, coming from behind in Andrew Abbott's magnificent start?
So 10 days ago, probably our podcast rundown would have been Abbott looks like he's wearing down a bit down the stretch. Ellie is certainly worn down. Andujar can't play because he's hurt. TJ Friedel is slumping badly. The back of the bullpen, they need to come up with some other solution because they've been pitching Pagan and Santillan so much, take out Pagan, but the back of the bullpen theme, all those guys are the guys who won them the game on Wednesday. So there has been a bit of a reversal there in terms of some of the negative trends that were impacting this team's season at the time, seemingly ending, and the guys who came up clutch for them in San Diego over the course of the week. So it's a Reds team that has, Stevenson back, that has Stewart here, that has McLean getting hot, Cabrian Hayes and Austin Hayes and TJ Friedel all getting hot. And then probably most importantly, the rotation. You look at Abbott's bounce back. Singer's been their most consistent guy for the last month. Hunter Greene and what he did against the Mets. I'm still a big believer in Nick Lodolo and what he can do down the stretch. And
Yeah.
then the options they have now in the bullpen, it is a team back on an upward trajectory, and that's changed pretty quickly.
All right, we're going to get to that quickly, but a final note on the San Diego series. Terry Francona didn't say it on Wednesday after the game, but after Abbott's previous start, when he struggled again and when it felt like he really kind of, he's been so good you don't bottom out, but the low point, I'll call it for him, Terry Francona alluded to the fact that he thought he'd lost some of his swagger. He looked like he had that back in San Diego. Tito also said something about Ellie De La Cruz that I thought was a good description. There's no question. He used the word uncomfortable to describe how De La Cruz has been at the plate recently, but he said he almost has survival skills, like the way he poked that ball through the right side to tie the game on Wednesday in San Diego. And if Ellie De La Cruz is uncomfortable and can continue to survive, I think that's a good way to sum up where he is, but he can still really help, and you hope that he gets a little more comfortable along the way. In the leadoff spot now, piggybacking off of what you just said, if the Mets really are vulnerable right now, yeah, pitching might have something to do with it. They've got those young kids in there, and you never know. They could be great, but you never know how they could be this early and inexperienced as they are in games like this in September. And the Reds are just the opposite. The Reds have gotten to September with 6 healthy, proven starters. How many teams can say they got to this month, this point in the season, well armed as the Reds are right now? And you just said this, but I'm gonna be a little more specific. You think about the Reds last time through the rotation. Five games. They won 4 of the games, and here's a big reason why they did. Brady Singer, who's been good for 6 or 7 weeks. Singer against the Mets, 6 innings, 1 run. Reds win. Hunter Greene against the Mets, 7 innings, 1 hit and 1 run to go along with the 12 strikeouts. Reds win. Nick Lodolo, just back from being sick, admitted that he was gassed and tired. Still gave him 5 shutout innings against the Padres, and the Reds let that one get away in extra innings. Zach Littell had been up and down against the Padres, 6 innings, 2 runs, and the Reds win. And then Andrew Abbott with the gem on Wednesday, 8 innings, his longest start of the season outside of the complete game, and the Reds win. So one time through the rotation with those starts, the Reds won 4 of the 5 games. We've said it all along that the Reds are going to pitch their way to winning games and having success. And right now, how well armed is the Reds starting rotation?
With the offense being what it is, and it's fine. I don't think the offense is bad, but it's fine. This is a path and a formula we've talked about. Like, I remember in early July, they had that stretch where they didn't play too well leading into the All-Star break against the Red Sox, Phillies, put that Marlins series in there, and then they took the series against the Rockies. The Reds pitchers during that stretch were fine, but they weren't going out, showing up, and just leading the Reds to wins. And it felt similarly there in the back end of August as they kind of faded away at the time for a bit. because of how this team is constructed and some of the flaws that exist, et cetera, the starting rotation just has to put the team on its back, and that's exactly what it's done here recently. Each pitcher does it differently, and that's a part of
Yeah.
the fun of it. Each pitcher look and with Abbott, factoring in his most recent start, looks strong at this point of the year, and it's a rotation that's kind of on an upward trajectory in September, which is not common. And I mean, the Reds just outpitched the Padres. I know the Dodgers have a lot of talent, but the Dodgers, wish they kind of had the consistency and the durability that the Reds rotation has. The Mets wish they had the rotation that the Reds have. I guess the Brewers probably have outperformed the Reds in the starting rotation this year, but the Reds probably have more upside than Milwaukee. Like, this is a real rotation. And now back it up with a bullpen that actually does give you some depth in middle innings with some reinforcements coming.
It felt like Andrew Abbott saved one of his best starts for what feels like one of the biggest spots, without question, in the season. And I think he reflected that with what he said on Wednesday after the game. But let's spend just a minute on Hunter Greene. Here's some things we know about Hunter Greene coming into this point in his career. He throws hard. He's always thrown hard. But here are just some good stats. The highest single season fastball, average fastball velocity in the pitch track era. That's since 2008, 99.5. That's all of baseball. This year, he's throwing a lot of first pitch strikes. And how many times have we heard it? The most important pitch is strike one. First pitch strike percentage leads baseball this season at about 71%. So I'm watching, full credit here to Mark DeRosa on MLB Network, because I'm watching him pick apart Hunter Greene's start against the Mets and how dominant it was. And he threw out some of these numbers. And what he pointed out was that in that game against the Mets, against some great left-handed hitters, specifically Juan Soto, Brandon Nimmo, Hunter Greene went against what he's done a good part of this season in terms of how he pitched and pitch usage. And he used his splitter almost twice as much as he had previously this season to those left-handed hitters. And so we're looking at that. And I went to Greene and I said, okay, take me through what that was like. It felt like right from the first inning, you had your choice of what you could do or how you could pitch that team. How did you get to that pitch and have so much success with it? Here's what Greene said about that.
Yeah, the game will tell you, your approach to hitters. And obviously, there's a general game plan before the game starts. Your approach to the team that you're facing with there might be teams that they don't do well with splitters, but maybe your splitter's not on that day, or kind of vice versa. So the game will just let you know, and you just got to pay attention, read swings, and all that good stuff. So to really answer your question, it's both. It's game to game, and it's also general kind of narratives with teams. So yeah, just kind of both.
Yeah. How are you feeling with it? And when do you know that kind of thing? Because you were right on from the first inning. It seems like you found out a lot about what you had in the first inning.
Yeah, obviously I've been working on making sure that split is a really solid third offering.
Yeah.
But it's that time of the season. All these hitters have seen millions of pitches since spring training, so all these hitters are sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Guys are going through funks, obviously, like anybody. You'll have guys that aren't doing well, that are going through a tough stretch, but for the most part, everyone is seeing every single pitch that can be thrown, so your stuff has to be sharp. And it's just recognizing that and leaning into it and making sure all your pitches are working before first pitch.
More of the evolution of Hunter Greene, right? And just watching him in that game, we've talked about this before. Andrew Abbott with swagger. Hunter Greene has swagger and presence and intimidation and all of those things. He had that working in the 12 strikeout game against the Mets. What do you see in the fact that he missed some time? So he's probably physically, he may be feeling as well as anyone in baseball right now when he goes out to pitch.
I want to talk a little bit more about that splitter, because one of my favorite in the weeds Reds storylines, like over the long run, has been tracking Hunter Greene's third pitch over like the last 7 years,
Okay.
it's been a journey. I remember talking to a 21-year-old Hunter Greene about how his changeup was going to be the thing that took him over the top, and then talking to a 22-year-old Hunter Greene about how his changeup would be the thing that would take him over the top, and then a 23-year-old Hunter Greene about the same topic. And every year that changeup, all right, in spring training it looks good. I think actually Hunter like locked in and confirmed his spot on the 2022 Reds opening day roster because in a spring training game in San Francisco, they thought that he's got the changeup now. He figured that out in that spring training game. And then the season started and the lights were on and he didn't. What always happened was he was feeling great about the changeup. And then when the lights came on, you know what? I'm just going to throw the fastball and the slider. But he needed it. It was the tool he needed to prevent home runs against left-handed hitters. And he just didn't do it. And that was a point of frustration. Then in 2024, he picks up the splitter. It's solid. Greene has a good season. But now to not just be in games that count on your ERA, games that count in terms of stats, to be in meaningful playoff race games against the team you're chasing. And in that spot to be throwing your splitter, that's the growth of Hunter Greene, to be at a spot where he's not just willing to throw it to those hitters in this part of the season. I couldn't have more, respect for the growth that Greene has made with that third pitch. It's a new third pitch. He ended up scraping the changeup. That's in the graveyard somewhere. But he found what worked for him, and now he has the right confidence in it.
And he's got it. And the Reds, as a rotation, have it right now. But Hunter Greene is the one that jumps off the page right now, I think, of the scouting report for the Reds and what's possible in a series if you have to face Greene in a 3-game series, which the A's are about to have to do in Sacramento. Time now for Tito's take. And Terry Francona has given opportunity, maybe in some part by necessity, certainly in some part by necessity, to some younger guys out of the Reds bullpen. And it was striking in the fact that Connor Phillips, who's been well thought of, clearly, and was up in 23, I believe.
23, yes.
And then not at all in 24. Very brief call-up earlier this season, and then most recently, it's only been a couple of weeks. But started the season hurt, and then here we are in his second call-up just a few weeks into it, and in the 7th and 8th innings in San Diego of tight ball games that the Reds have to win, Connor Phillips is out there dotting 100 on the black and getting guys out. In the 8th inning on Tuesday, it was Tatis and Machado included in the 3 or 4 batters he faced. He had 2 strikeouts in that frame in the 8th inning and picked up the win. So Connor Phillips earning some trust, and I went to him, and here's his take on just kind of where he is and the opportunity he has right now, what he feels about being counted on in games like this down the stretch.
Spring training with the little injury I went through and the time setback, it kind of just forced me into this role, which is, I thought a blessing. I'm able to be up here, able to help this team, try and make a run. As far as like people that have helped me, I'd say literally everybody up here. Just getting to understand, there's different ways to go about it. Talk to literally all the guys in the bullpen, and they've all been through it. They've all had, the different roles and whatnot. And, I'm bouncing around between early and sometimes later, leverage stuff. So right now I'm kind of that in between where it's hey, I'm always going to be ready. Right? And I've kind of talked to EP and Tony about, hey, what do I need to do? And they were really the ones that told me hey, it looks like, you're that anywhere from, 4 to 7 in it. Yeah. So I've kind of just made sure I'm ready, and that's helped me out a lot.
That's what I was going to ask you. Last night, what does it mean to you that Tito, DJ, everybody else has the trust in you to hand you more high leverage situations? You have to feel that and recognize that. How does it feel?
It feels great. I'm a super high energy guy. the games that are close, like I'm out there screaming, like I've told quite a few people and they recognize it. Like if I would have got that third strikeout, I probably would have jumped from the mound to the line. I mean, it's a lot of fun out there, and I'm kind of just taking it all in, and just enjoying the opportunity that I've been given this year.
You got 6 outs in San Diego. 4 of the 6 outs were strikeouts. Cowboy, if you listen to the game broadcast on television, Cowboy loves Connor Phillips and his stuff. And Cowboy's point is, which is not unlike almost any big league player, is once he believes, Connor Phillips convinces himself that he's better than a lot of the guys that dig into the batter's box, that confidence is going to be the final piece to the puzzle, pairing with Connor Phillips and the stuff that he has. What do you see?
You remember in May, we did a thing about how Tony Santillan's the best Red story that no one's talking about. Well, we've talked about Tony. Still a great story, but he's had a well-earned spotlight. Congrats to Tony on a great season. Connor Phillips now the best story on the Reds that no one's talking about. Let's go through it. 2023. It's March. I swear to God, the Reds' top pitching prospect isn't Andrew Abbott, it's Connor Phillips. He was the guy with the buzz in Goodyear. Makes it up to the big leagues very young. I believe it was like 21 or 22 when he debuted for a Reds team that was running out of pitching. Injuries and COVID forced him up. He had a tough debut, but then he really started to settle in. And in a huge game on September 18th against the Twins, a massive, massive series at the time, 7 innings, 2 runs. Next week against the Pirates, Phillips throws 5 stellar innings, and then the bullpen blows it. I believe the Reds blew like a 9-run lead that day. That was the most memorable game of that season because the bullpen just imploded. But the story that day should have been, man, Phillips did it again. He's saving this rotation. Then the second last game of the season, elimination day, Phillips starts, doesn't record he walks all 3 hitters, doesn't throw a strike.
Right.
It was bad. He was also banged up at the time, which is something he admitted later. And a part of this story was in the dugout. In the clubhouse, he's devastated. Game's going on. He's done. Joey Votto comes and sits with him. He says, I'm going to see you at spring training next year, and I'm going to ask you how you responded to this. And Phillips was like, all right, yeah. But unfortunately, it wasn't that much of a straight line for Connor, who 2024 just lost his command, lost his confidence, lost everything. They had to send him all the way to rookie ball, from AAA to rookie ball, to completely reset because he couldn't throw a strike. He was a guy who was supposed to be challenging for a rotation spot by the middle of the summer, but instead, there he was back in the Arizona Complex League. Posted like an ERA in the 8s to end the season in AAA last year. Comes back to camp, made some changes, just pitching out of the stretch, simplifying his approach. He's hopeful. Then he gets hurt. Because he gets hurt, he has to go to the bullpen. That's new. That's different for him. But he's taken to it well, and the stuff's there. Now, the thing with him, like you said, it'll be the confidence. It'll be the consistency. It'll be what do you do when things start to go wrong? Because those are the moments we just saw him struggle with a lot in AAA last season. But the journey he has gone on to then go and get those hitters out in San Diego at this point of the season, in this stage, man, talk about a full circle moment for Connor Phillips, who has been around the world and back to get to this high leverage spot in the Reds bullpen.
That's an excellent story. I like the fact that he's the best story that no one's talking about. I love the backstory. He said, look, everybody says my control is going to, he's been pretty good. There've been a walk or two mixed in there, but he's been pretty good. But you can see, as you can with a lot of guys, you can see the level of belief in himself rising slowly for Connor Phillips. Now, he got some of those opportunities. Zach Maxwell got some late game opportunities, in part because Graham Ashcraft has been out. Ashcraft threw on Wednesday off the mound in San Diego, and it feels like he's probably close. And so that's part of the potential reinforcements for the Reds bullpen. But also, we finally got word on the plan for Chase Burns. Chase Burns has been slowly, and this is for obvious reasons, the Reds have been intentionally slow and patient, trying to work him back, one, so that they can keep him healthy and send him to the offseason healthy, but two, They want to get him back because they believe that he can help them win games down the stretch, even though it's not as a starter. So he'll go to the bullpen, starting with the series against the A's on Friday. After he got the news that he's coming back and about the plan for how he'll be used, I talked to Burns in San Diego, and here's what he said.
I'm excited for it. Yeah, they've done a great job of communicating to me, and so basically kind of labeled as schedule innings out of the pen. So I'm pumped.
So what has this been like for you trying to make sure everybody's trying to make sure that they brought you along right to get you back to this point, the wait for you, and then you want to be out there and compete?
Yeah, it just says a lot about their process and how much I mean to this organization, really. Of course, for me, it was tough at times, wanting to be out there and help the guys out, but it's finally here, so I'm ready for it.
Since the first time we saw you throw to hitters, I think that first session at the ballpark,
Yeah.
it looked like you were mad when guys made contact. Were you that dialed in as a competitor even in those things on your way back?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, my job is to go out there and get swings and misses and, get guys out as quickly as possible. So that's just the competitor in me. Of course, the big league hitters, of course, they're going to make contact with it. I've been working on myself for a while, so I'm excited to get back out there.
Yeah, and I know you have a little bit of a track record, obviously, coming out of the bullpen. Does that give you an added comfort in what you're going to be doing now?
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's still pitching. It's just, I don't start the game out there. I come in during the game. So, but yeah, it does help, especially doing it in college at Tennessee a little bit. And how they're making it seem, I'll kind of know when I'm coming in. So that helps just my process and my routine a little bit. So
Would it be fair to describe you as hungry? Is that good?
oh yeah, definitely. I'm a competitor for sure. I just want to be out there, especially at this part of the season with the boys, just trying to help us win.
I've been trying to imagine as I watched him throw to hitters at Great American Ballpark, and you saw the same thing. How will that play with his stuff and his moxie coming out of the bullpen in a tight game in a September playoff push?
Well, that's going to be up to Terry Francona and Derek Johnson. Do they put him in situations where you push Chase Burns and say, all right, it's a tie game in the 7th and 8th, go attack the top of this lineup? Or is it the 5th when the heartbeat's a little slower? Maybe you're down
Right.
a run or two. The managing of this is the most interesting part of this story to me, because Chase Burns is so good that you could throw him in the 7th and 8th against anybody, and he'd probably give you as good of a chance as anyone on your team. But the lack of bullpen experience makes this something that's just going to have to be a gut decision. Like in this era of analytics and decision making and this and this and this, how they manage Chase Burns is just one of the more it's going to have to be. There's no formula for this. It's going to have to be one of the more old school. What are you seeing? Do you leave him in for another batter? Type of decision making processes that Terry Francona has gone through all season. It's gonna be fascinating. He could be this team's Andrew Miller, he could be this team's
Right.
long reliever, it could be anything in between, and it'll take some real managing to see how Burns looks.
And I would agree with you. I think it starts as one of those soft landing, easy entry points for Chase Burns.
But can you
then-
afford that? It's with where you are in the standings, do you
Yeah.
just have to rip the Band-Aid off?
Well, I think you're going to be able to afford it very early, but then I think it's up to Chase Burns and the Reds on where they use him and how they go from there. The way they framed it, and Terry Francona certainly didn't say we're going to look for the 5th inning of a game when he didn't give us that, but the way they framed it, it certainly sounds like they're going to be careful, at least initially, with where and when and the opportunity, so that they control the environment as much as they possibly can for Chase Burns. But I think after that, if he throws like a lot of people think that he can or think that he will, then you have some real options potentially for Burns.
Do you
As we
want to
get
hear
into the-
my do you want to hear my hottest bullpen take? And this transitions here, getting into the notebook where we were going to talk about this.
I know. Go ahead and roll the notebook, because Chaz just turned the page to the notebook. Chaz wanted to get into his notebook, so he preemptively turned the page. So, yeah, go ahead.
My hottest Reds take, Santin, what a season. What a season. With Martinez, with Burns, and now with Phillips and Maxwell on the rise, I'd change the way you structure the bullpen at this point of the season. And this is just reckless speculation. This is just me. This is just my opinion.
We're just
Instead
having
of having
fun
to
now.
Instead of having Tony be the eighth inning guy, what I would do would be have Tony be the guy who follows the starting pitcher. It was actually the role he was in last year. Think of it as like the old TJ Antone role. Because, all right, so it's a must-win game, let's say. Your starter gives you 5 1/3, and there are 2 runners on. It's the 6th. You could throw Maxwell or Phillips in there. You could throw Barlow in there. That's fine. You're probably not going to throw Chase Burns in there just yet. But that situation's probably going to be the game. Like this was Monday against it wasn't following the starter, but this was Monday against the Padres. They put Suter in that spot because the back of their bullpen was a little shorter at the time. And that's the game. The Padres tie the score. They get their superstar relievers in. Signed, sealed, delivered. Do you put Tony in that spot, keep the game, then turn it over to Burns? Or Martinez too could be a part of that factor as well. And I have enough confidence in a clean inning for Phillips and Maxwell to where they could kind of be the guys who would help pick you up in the 7th or 8th if you're short on that given day. But as a way to create the most high leverage possible situation for Chase Burns and make sure he's not Chase is warming up, but the 7th reliever on the team just gave up the lead in the 6th inning. So now Burns is going to come in with the Reds down by 2. Do you put your best guy in early, which is something a lot of teams do? It's just not what the Reds have done this year, and have Santin be the guy who passes the torch to the guys you want to manage a bit more deliberately, Burns especially, maybe Martinez as well, who hasn't entered as much in the middle innings. Ashcraft then could also just be used as your situational lefty, like put him in the Sam Maul role. Different options you can do. I wonder if something that would make sense is being more extreme with Santin.
I like your hot takes, man. I like your hot takes. So, but we mentioned the rotation and being healthy and being ready. When you look at now the bullpen and the options, that's one option. If you completely changed how you've used Tony Santillan, is there another thing right now that you're thinking about that Terry Francona will be confronted with as a possibility or might do in this situation down the stretch now, given the arms that he has?
An option would be moving Martinez back to the rotation because he's outpitched Zach Littell in that role. I'm open to that. I thought Littell had a meaningful start on Tuesday in San Diego, and I'd be fine with him sticking in that role. Aside from that, I mean,
That's a good one.
aside from that, using Ashcraft as a situational lefty, I need to check in on this. I was told a few weeks ago there was a chance that Rhett Lauder could return for the very, very end of the year, but he hasn't started a rehab assignment yet, and I feel like that would need to be starting pretty shortly for him to be able to factor in at some point after missing the entire season. Those are the main things I see right now. Maybe even do you get more aggressive with a bullpen day? And if it's, say, Littell's day to start, do you just start Martinez that day and you have Littell be the bulk guy just in case you're down, for example? Like the bullpen gives you length, versatility, and upside, which creates the opportunity for some moving pieces. And so do Maxwell and Phillips and kind of the trust they're creating.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Rhett Lauder is about to start. So Saturday.
I did not know that.
Yeah, this just in. Will start his rehab assignment Saturday for Louisville at Toledo. So
Wow.
Rhett Lauder, it's starting.
Straight to Louisville.
Straight to Louisville at Toledo on Saturday. So that's Rhett Lauder, and that's the interesting take on the Reds bullpen right now. I love giving you something that makes you smile, Chaz. I love that. In San Diego, the game on Tuesday, the Tyler Stevenson game, when earlier in the game, he has a classic Tyler Stevenson opposite field swing, headed for the seats, that Tatis goes up and brings it back. And that you go, well, if that doesn't go for Tyler Stevenson, that was an opportunity missed for the Reds. Instead, all he did was wait for the stakes to get even higher and show up in the 9th inning against one of the best closers in the National League and just teed off to left field to that beautiful metal supply company signage and building at Petco Park and won the game for the Reds. Great to see Tyler Stevenson have a moment because he hasn't had as many of those as certainly you would hope that he would have. But that was a great moment, compounded by the fact that he recognized and admitted right away that the night before, with the bases loaded and a chance just to scratch anybody across, he couldn't move those runners. So I love that moment for Tyler Stevenson. What's your take on Stevenson returning from his injury and helping now down the stretch?
Well, he said with the oblique, there was kind of a mental hurdle that he had to get through when he returned from that in mid-May after missing the start of the season. And he's just always been like catching up this season. It's been hard for him to really get settled, get his roots under him. But there have been a few stretches where he's gotten hot. I remember one in the middle of June. I remember a game specifically against the Tigers, had a run in the cleanup spot, and then doing what he did in the ninth inning the other day as well. Also think he's having a good year pitch call and game planning with the pitchers. The throwing game stuff hasn't been as sharp just as a whole as you'd want to see from the Reds from the catching position this year. The Reds are in an interesting spot, and this is a podcast. This is an episode that's still focused on this season, but the Reds are in an interesting spot going forward at the catcher position because Tyler Stevenson, next year is his contract year.
Yeah.
I feel strong about Tyler Stevenson continuing to be the Reds catcher of the future past next year. I feel like even though, again, he's been a bit behind the eight ball, the value he provides, the comfort he has in big moments, he might be the team's best situational hitter. I still see a lot to like with Tyler Stevenson and his growth and his development and what that means for the Reds in the very short term and what that means for the Reds going forward.
Yeah, and I want to correct myself. The previous night when the Reds lost in extras, it was Stevenson who came up with the free runner at second base, didn't move the runner over, grounded out to shortstop, I think. And he was upset. He wore that night in a game the Reds felt like they should have won, and then came back the next night and had the game, what he called, was kind of redemption for him the next night. Will Benson, I mean, do you remember that name? I ask you if you remember it because the guy didn't start for a month. He's been with the team. Will Benson shows up in San Diego, and Will Benson right away homers in his first at bat, and then has that play in right field, which looked awful as he got too deep underneath the padding and the ledge that overhangs the outfield wall in right field. And that looked terrible. At the time, I think if you're watching on TV or listening, certainly in the ballpark, we thought it was going to be really bad. I talked to some folks with the Reds who shared that feeling at the moment. And turns out Will Benson gets right back up, stays in the game, and the next day says he's fine, which is the best possible news. But Will Benson is still lurking out there in the shadows for Terry Francona and can do things like he did in that game.
Like, as a reporter, it's not my job to be happy for guys. That's not what we do. I'm happy for Benson.
Yep.
He has had to prove himself. I mean, he even had to earn the start he got on Tuesday, even though it was his first start in 2 months. Like, the work that he had to do and the focus that he had to keep in AAA, the attitude that he had to maintain when he wasn't playing, when he was in the big leagues for a while this season. And he's still a guy who's been statistically and analytically crushing the ball at a very impressive rate when he's been given opportunities. And he's improved defensively this year. I see him out there every day, every single day. He does this circuit with Colin Cowgill where he rolls ground balls to him and he works going this way and he works going that way. And Will Benson, he does every live BP. He's the first one up there because he wants those at bats. Like, I mean, he's worked, and you could see how happy the team was for him too when he hit that homer. And should he be getting more opportunities? I mean, you can find some very easy to find statistics that write yes in capital letters. I understand why he's not, specifically because Austin Hayes has gotten pretty hot over the last couple weeks, but I still see value in Will Benson, and I give him a lot of credit for the game he had on Tuesday.
When Terry Francona said after the game, after he was injured, that the injury appeared to be muscular. I was thinking about if anybody can endure a muscular injury, Will Benson has muscles to spare. So maybe one layer of his muscle in his shoulder or neck was injured, but he's got reinforcements and backup. That guy's got muscles on top of muscles, and it's good to see that he was in fact okay. And I'm with you. He's still out there, and he's still intriguing that way. So the next test, Chaz, for the Reds shapes up in a lot of ways as a challenge for a team that is thinking of itself the way the Reds are right now. You go from 40,000 plus every night in San Diego, and that's not just people in the seats. If you've been to San Diego, that is an engaged, energized, lively place to play because of the crowd. It doesn't matter if it's a Monday and Tuesday night like the Reds saw. It was a different kind of atmosphere, and the Reds stood up to that against a really good team with big-name star players, and they won that series. You get the day off, which is great. Now they go to play a last-place team in a minor league ballpark where this will be a test of the Reds creating their own energy, motivation, juice. Certainly the motivation comes with where they are in the race, but you're going to have to manufacture some things because you're not going to get any of that from the crowd, I don't think, in Sacramento. But the Reds have this opportunity against a team that they should beat and that they should help themselves in this series. How do you see it stacking up?
Great way to frame it, because we've seen the Reds go through this experience before. A month ago, you remember the series at Wrigley in August, right after the trade deadline, right after Bristol,
Yeah.
where the bullpen, all hands on deck. They had these big, meaningful, emotional wins. Team was feeling really good about itself. And then they go to Pittsburgh. There's nobody there, and the Reds no-show.
Yeah.
They no-showed as much as they did in any series all season, and I think the players would agree with that. Very, very similar turnaround here. And it's an A's team too. That's a top 10 offense in a lot of categories. I love a lot of the individual bats in that lineup. It's a series for that reason. It's a team that'll challenge the Reds pitching staff in that way. So that spark, that culture, that energy for a Reds team that's played terribly this season against the bad teams on their schedule, that's something they have to remedy now. I mean, this is the series they have to use as like a making up ground. Like, all right, yes, on Monday in San Diego, you needed to get that runner in the 10th, but you know what? You run into a great team and some great pitching, and they make great plays. The A's aren't going to make those plays. They're not going to show you that relief pitching. Those are series you really have to stomp your foot down if you're serious about making a run. And, here we go, some more meaningful September baseball.
The Reds are relevant, meaningful September baseball, and maybe you thought you could get rid of Power Stacks because the Reds were done. You can't ditch us yet. The Reds are back in it, and they have a big series coming up. Check out the podcast anywhere you get your podcast. Look it up on YouTube. Tell a friend. For all the people who've emailed or come by to say, hey, here's where I am, and we listen and we watch and we enjoy it, thank you for that. powerstackspod@gmail.com is the email. But this is, for us doing this for the first time this season, Chaz, we're mid-September, and Power Stacks, because of the Cincinnati Reds, is relevant. So thanks for checking out the show. Enjoy baseball. We look forward to talking about it next time. Take care.